Hello. Today we're going to take a look at importing content from this ACE online course standardization module into your own individual content. I will show you a couple of different ways of doing this. One, going into a module that has nothing in it yet. This is an empty shell. I haven't really done anything with it, but if I wanted to, I could start bringing this in and then building content around it. I will also show you how to bring it into another module that already has a bunch of content and activities already in place. There is no requirement that you have an empty shell to do this activity. Let's take a look. Before you start importing this content into your shell, the easiest way to do it is to take a look at what's called the OU number, the number that is the individual number for that module in our instance of Learn. Okay? When you take a look at any part of this content, the OU number is always part of the link. And that is probably the easiest way to import a specific item from a specific Learn shell into whatever you're trying to work with. So again, when I have to move content between shells, the first thing I do is I take a look at that number, the 203842 number, assuming of course my dyslexia hasn't kicked in. So now that I have this number, I can go forward and start importing that into other shells. And I'm just going to go back and open up another shell here. I have them pinned for the purposes of this presentation. So I am going to open up a second shell. So I have the shell I want to import from into the shell I want to import to. You do not have to. The important thing is simply having that OU number. I'm going to copy that number. I'm going to go to the shell I wish to import that content to, and I select Edit Course. Depending on the navigation you have in place, your edit course might be somewhere else, but you should have an option to go to Edit Course and then select the Import, Export, Copy Components option. When you select that, you can then start importing or exporting components. You can copy from a template, you can copy from another org unit, another OU, nudge, nudge, wink, wink, or you can actually import files as well. But we're just going to use copying components from another org unit. We must search for an offering. We click on the Search for Offering button. It opens up a pop-up window. Of course, you need to configure your browser to allow pop-ups from the RRC or the learn.rrc.ca domain. And then search. You can search for anything. You can search for a name, for a course code, or anything. But because we have the OU, we can search for that OU, and it will give us exactly the course we are looking for. You must select the radio button. Even if you only have one result, you must still select the radio button and add selected. And then it says, here you go. You can copy all components, or you can select individual components that you wish to copy over. I'm going to show the all copy components on this one. And then as soon as you say copy all components, it just grabs everything. There is no stepping back at this point. So you may want to be careful with that choice because it just copies everything. It's okay. Once it's copied, if you're unhappy with anything that gets copied over, you can, of course, delete it. Okay? And then you can carry on and copy other things as well. It is pretty straightforward. Again, the process again, Edit Course, Import, Export, Copy Components, search for an offering, type in or copy and paste the OU from the shell you wish to copy from, search for it, select it, and then add that to the list. Okay? After you've copied it once before, you go to copy it again. It will say, hey, you've already copied this. Are you sure? This time I can say select components, and this is where the warning pops up. It says, hey, you've already copied from this shell. Are you sure you want to do this again? For the purposes of this demonstration, I would say yes. Okay? Or you can click on copy all components, and as we saw, it will just copy everything over for you. Okay, now that we have imported the entirety of this learn shell into either an empty shell or another shell that already had content in it, let's take a look at importing specific content. When we take a look, for example, at the course overview, the module has a bunch of sub-module or sub-content in it, and we may want to import that. A better view of this, of course, is to go into the content in Learn. Okay? There is also a sample module, which also has some sub-content as well. And this is a very well done example of how to do some content in Learn, including linking other activities and assessments to your content in Learn. And it's a really good example. It's worth looking at, but I already have in place. Let's take a look at, again, we're going to take a look at this shell here. So I have my web security shell open here, and I've got all my content in place. And really, what I wish to do is to simply add the overview content to my existing shell. It is very similar to what we just did. Again, we go to Edit Course. Again, we go to Import, Export, Copy Components. And again, we search for our offering. Now, you can type in the shell, but I should still have it in my clipboard. Or you can type in 203842, because again, that's the OU of the Learn shell that we wish to copy from. So you search for offering, paste, search, select, and add the selected. Oops, I didn't add it, my bad. Paste, search, click, add selected, so that it shows that I have the ACE Online Course Standardization Committee. And of course, you can do this with any Learn shell. We are not going to copy all components this time. We are going to select the components we wish to bring over. There is a lot. There's a lot in the content. There's some course files, but we're going to grab those files when we bring them over, so we don't need to specify them. There's some discussion. There's some grade items. Take a look at these. I believe a lot of these are based on the sample shell. Take a look at those. They're really out of scope. I don't want to grab all the content. I want to select individual content to copy. Again, because we're choosing the components to copy over, we are interested only in specific content. So we select content, select individual items to copy, and we include any associated files. We click on Continue. And this allows us to choose the content we want to include. You can be very granular. You can say one individual thing, or you can say, give me this entire group, and it automatically does all the sub-content based on your selection. In this case, all the sub-modules. I could grab the sample module, but for the purposes of this one, I don't need the sample module, so I am not going to copy it over. Once I've selected that, of course, ensuring that on the previous screen I said include associated files, I can click on Continue, and then it allows me to do any date offsets. This is an interesting feature that I've never really played with. Feel free to play with that on your own. You can move it off to certain days. I don't have any experience with this. Maybe others can chime in on the discussion to add to that. And at this point, you can click on Finish. And then we again see a very similar wizard. Because this is the first time I'm copying, I don't get a warning that, hey, you've already copied from this site. And as you can see, I do this quite a bit. Once the copy is complete, and it is done in the context of having a bunch of other content already copied, please understand that it adds it to the bottom of the list. And even though I do have an outline area and a table of contents, it's going to do its own grouping, and it's going to be, as I said, at the very bottom of the list. Okay. There are some edits that need to happen. This is all inside of the module, and they are italicized instructions that you should go through and address specifically. But again, now that I have this, I can move it around. Okay? There's a little drag handle that allows you to move your content to wherever you want. I'm going to move it to the top of my table of contents. So now when I go to my table of contents page, it appears top center with all of my other content. Again, you can go into it, and at this point, this is regular Learn management. If you have any questions on this, please do not hesitate to email me. My name is Stephen J. for those of you who don't know, and my email is sj@rrc.ca. Best of luck.